मैं क्या एंगल से लूँ? मैं एंगल से लूँ फिर?
ले लो कोई बात नहीं। आप इधर आ जाओ।
मैं इधर ही हूँ।
पूरी आनी चाहिए हर चीज़।
नहीं, आधी आएगी।
हजरात बैठ जाएं ज़रा, सारे जो काम नहीं कर रहे प्लीज़ वो बैठ जाएं, हाथ तो काम करें, बाकी अखबार बैठ जाएं। मरीज साहब बाकी एक्स्ट्रा लोग ज़रा प्लीज़ बिठा देना, जो काम कर रहे हैं वो ठीक है, बाकी अखबार ज़रा बैठ जाएं। जज़ाकल्लाह, सारे हजरात बैठ जाएं। जज़ाकल्लाह।
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As you guys can see tonight, we are delighted to have a few members of the East District Police Department of Jersey City amongst us. And from them we have Officer Sam Badawi, who's very well known around here. He helps us immensely when we have youth gatherings. As you guys all know, in the Friday prayer, he's usually outside, and different other prayers like Eid and etc. So we want to thank him for being here. We also have Officer Simmons and Officer Nick, and our most honorable guest, Captain Daniel Sollitti. And this is the second year in a row that they're joining us for Iftar. So, hopefully this is not the last. And to officially begin our program, I would like to call up the Imam of Muslim Federation of New Jersey, Imam Saifur Nabi, to come up and recite a few verses of the Holy Quran.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون صدق الله العظيم.
And to translate what the Imam just recited, O you who have believed, decreed upon you is fasting, as it was decreed upon those before you, that you may become righteous. Ramadan is a month in which Muslims all over the world partake in abstaining from food and water from dawn till sunset. And there are many reasons for this. One main reason is, as everyone knows, that there's so many people in the world that are so unfortunate and don't have the lives that we live over here. Cannot have the same food that we eat. As everyone knows, we have no problem in living in this society. We can eat 3 times a day. Whenever you feel like it, you go grab a snack. You go to any restaurant you want. So this is just to create compassionate inside of us and become more compassionate towards those people that don't have these types of things. And that's the main thing about Islam. Islam is a religion that teaches us to be compassionate and to be peaceful. It allows us and gives us a path to attain these attributes. And to bring up the event that just happened in Orlando, it saddens you. But as we all know, that's no representation of what Islam really is. Islam isn't something that's violent. Islam is a peaceful religion. And we as a community condemn such acts. And the Imam has publicly condemned those acts inside the Jersey Journal, as you guys all know. And also some of the delegates of this mosque, Dr. Chatta, Dr. Rafiq Chaudhary, Abid Islam, and Mr. Ahmed Khan, and who we also want to thank for inviting them over here, and the Imam. They all went to City Hall for the vigil that happened, just to show that, listen, we don't support none of this. And as you guys see the lights outside, you know, they've been shining since day one of Ramadan. But since that event happened, for 3 days we shut those lights down too, just to remember those people and those victims that, you know, that were in Orlando, in the Orlando shooting. So this is the main thing about Ramadan. We also want to let you guys know, and you know, of course you guys know a lot about Ramadan anyways, since this is a populated and a diverse culture that we live in. And now to officially invite over and to officially welcome you guys, I would like to call up the President of Muslim Federation of New Jersey, Dr. Chetta, who under his lead, we do everything that happens in this city and in this community. Everything that we do, it happens under his lead. So I would like to call him up to say a few words.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It's a special blessing that in our life that we are observing another month of Ramadan. This is a very blessed month, and in this month, if you do one good deed, God rewards you with 70 times of that deed. So Alhamdulillah, we got opportunity, and in our life we got another chance that we are observing this month of Ramadan. And it's it's my pleasure, and I'm very elated and happy that I see over here Captain Daniel Sollitti and other police officers on behalf of Muslim Federation of New Jersey. Once again, I welcome them that they took some time and they came and they joined us with this Iftar time. And I am very proud to say that this Pakistani American community has a very, very good relation with the police department, and we appreciate all their services they are supplying us. Especially they have increased their rounds in this area in the month of Ramadan. We really appreciate all their concerns, and to add this more, that this Pakistani community is very enriched community, full of with professionals, and they are law-abiding citizens, and we appreciate all their services which they are providing us. This month of Ramadan, I would like to add only this, that this is to say it's a complete recipe, or it's a complete prescription of life, that when you fast, you get taught every aspect of life. By fasting, you realize that how you have to live with your neighborhoods, how you have to speak with others, how you have to keep the rights of others, and how you should be peaceful. Even when you are fasting, you are not supposed to speak loud. So I know that since Hafiz Uzair said, this community is full of diversified communities, so all other communities should have some knowledge about this month of Ramadan. So I really, once again, I appreciate Captain Sollitti, under your supervision, this area is being watched good, and I also welcome all the police officers who came over here and joined with us in this Iftar party. Thank you very much. I would like to ask Officer Captain Sollitti, please come and say a few words. Thank you very much. Bye.
Good evening, and thank you for having us back. This is the second year I've come to join you here, and I always look forward to it. You welcome us in this house of worship as if you're welcoming us into your own homes, and I always have a very warm and welcome feeling whenever I come here. In particular, I'd like to take a moment just to thank my good friend, Mr. Amir Khan, who has been a tremendous liaison to the police department and speaks very well for this community in addressing matters that are of concern to the Muslim community, and to your neighbors and your friends as well. And thank you for always being there and being such a positive supporter. Also, Dr. Ashad Ali Chada, you're always very welcoming, and this is a very special place for me, and I'll explain why in a minute. And of course, the Imam, Qari Sanfil Nabi, and excuse me if I did not pronounce that perfectly. People have been mispronouncing my name for 27 years in the police department, so I understand how it is. Greetings to all of you. First, I'd like to say to the community gathered here, as the crescent moon is sighted and the holy month of Ramadan continues, may Allah bless you with happiness and grace your home with warmth and peace, and that goes for all of you. When I came here last year, the Iftar dinner that I attended was the first Iftar dinner that I had ever attended in my life. And in the time of just one short year, things have changed. Turns out this is the fourth Iftar dinner I'm attending this Ramadan, and in fact, actually the third one this week. But this one is very, very special to me, and to explain to you why. First of all, you are located within the East District, which I'm responsible for. I take personal responsibility and ownership for the safety of each and every one of you and for your families. So it's very important. Plus, you've been such tremendous supporters of my district and my police department. I also have a very special feeling when I come into this building, because before it was a house of worship, many of you who have been here before may have known it was a restaurant. And myself and my father, who's no longer with us, spent many, many times celebrating special occasions in this very room with our family, and it actually brings me back to very happy times in my childhood. Times change and things occur, and sometimes we have here in Jersey City houses of worship that may not look like a traditional house of worship that an Irish Italian Catholic is used to. Everything may not look like the Basilica Cathedral in Newark. We have storefronts that serve as houses of worship. We have converted buildings that serve as houses of worship, and it was very important to me when I became East District Commander that these houses of worship were treated with the same respect and deference that any house of worship would be. So one of the first things I did upon taking over the East District was making a list of every house of worship and having them flagged in our computer system, so that if you should ever need police services at this location, the officers would be notified by our computer that this was in fact a house of worship. A supervisor, a sergeant or lieutenant would also be notified that something was happening in a place of worship. And if available, the supervisor would respond to make sure that the house was treated with the respect and the dignity worthy of all houses of worship. So that's very important. Another distinction is that I was looking forward to this meal not only to break bread with friends, but I made a very attempt at fasting today. Now you notice I used the word attempt. I tried to do it in your honor. First of all, this Ramadan falls on some pretty long days, so I wish you all that as the calendar moves forward, shorter days of sunlight. Unfortunately, this morning, I had set my alarm for 4 a.m. to attempt to have a breakfast before the sun came up, and I didn't hear my alarm. So I was already a little bit behind in my attempts, and I was doing well all day, not a sip of water, not a drop of water, not a morsel of food. And then we had 9 new police officers assigned to the East District. Well, knowing I'm Italian, they brought me a pizza. And in the interest of developing a good relationship with them, I have to admit to you, I shared. Less than I would have ordinarily. So I've been told you can make up for failing to fast by doing good deeds or making up at a later day. So I promise the community I will make it up for a later day. And the good deed I will do for you is I will make sure that the 9 officers are deployed to this area and that they will ensure your safety and your peace in your community. Quickly, in all of the Iftar dinners I've attended this week, each and every one of them did make reference to the terrible tragedy that occurred at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida. And I wanted to let you know that immediately after it happened, I got a private note from Mr. Amir Khan. Also, I worked very closely with the Turkish Cultural Association and the Peace Islands Institute of New Jersey, who also published a letter condemning, and the Imam, who published a letter in the Jersey Journal condemning those horrible acts. And I read them at community meetings, and I want to let you know that it reassured and reinforced the bond that you have with your community. And as we know, actions tend to speak louder than words. And while I was in charge of the policing of the candlelight vigil that took place recently on the Newark Avenue pedestrian plaza, I want to let the community here know that your presence and your participation spoke volumes to the community that was there. We are all very cognizant and realize that many of the victims and many of the survivors may not engage in a lifestyle that is consistent with the teaching of Islam, but yet it was so important that you were able to put that aside and recognize the dignity of all humans and show empathy for the human suffering of the survivors. And your presence there was a warm and welcome addition to the event, which actually brought us all together. We're a very diverse community, multilingual, many religions are practiced, many cultures, many ethnic backgrounds. But we have a common bond that I've seen when I've traveled all over the country, and that's that whether you were born here or whether you moved from another town or another continent, we're all from Jersey City. And no matter where you go in the world, if you meet another person in Jersey City, you may experience this. They'll yell across the room or they'll yell across the field, "Hey, Jersey City," and you'll start talking about those common bonds, those places, those experiences that we all from Jersey City have in common. When we talk about diversity, and this is important, I believe, one of the root words is divide. And sometimes we concentrate so much on all the things that divide us, but I chose instead to focus for a moment on the common things that we have that bring us together. And specifically, I mean being a practicing Muslim here in the United States of America at this point in our history, and being an American police officer, being a peace officer here in the United States at this point in our history. And there's so much more in common that you would think. Very often, people just judge us from our outward appearance, the way we groom ourselves, the clothing that they wear, and they make an opinion of us that in very often cases are not accurate and do not really represent what we represent and who we are. We're judged by our outer clothing, and very often we find nowadays the media puts forth a message and they're more interested in selling a story than actually telling the truth. And they don't always represent. And we find ourselves defending ourselves. And the fact is, after the Pulse nightclub shooting, the Muslim community felt they were in a position where they had to defend themselves. If Islam had not defended itself, they would have become the 49th victim. Okay. They would have become the 49th victim or the 50th victim of that tragic act. The reality is, bad cops and religious extremists in all faiths are a minority. They are a fraction of the community that are out there, and they do not represent what we represent. They cloak their hatred in distorted views in the protections of a police uniform or the religious freedoms. And they tarnish our badge and they tarnish your reputation. And they do not represent the true values of either group. Because I expect that you would find that becoming a Muslim or becoming a police officer is not something in most cases that we choose. It chooses us. It's a calling. It is what we do because we feel that we need to lead a life that is meaningful and that makes a difference in our world and provides a better place for your children and for mine. So, in closing, I just would like to say to the entire community that's gathered, Ramadan Mubarak, And thank you for having us again this year, and we will be back. Thank you.